The Dukes of Dice are brought to you by Tasty Minstrel Games. Check out all their awesome titles at playtmg.com.
Welcome to the Duchy. It's time for another episode of the Dukes of Dice podcast, a proud member of the Dice Tower Network.
Coming to you from the Duchy in the Duke City, Albuquerque, New Mexico, it's the Dukes of Dice, a podcast about board card and occasionally role-playing games. Today the Dukes are joined by Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise. They'll give you their top 6 Spiel Des Jahres and Kennerspiel winners and nominees of all time. Then they look back at their review of Above and Below in their Dukes Double Take. And now, the Dukes of Dice.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. This is Sean.
And Alex.
Hello, guys. Thank you for inviting me on board.
Good job, Chaz.
How you doing, Chaz?
I'm fine. But other than that, I am fine. And I'm really happy to be here and excited to have a good discussion with you guys.
So, I don't know if you recall, but this is technically your third appearance on the Dukes of Dice. You very briefly were did something for us at our first Dice Tower Con 3 years ago now? Is it 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you joined us for like 10-15 minutes at BGG Con last year.
That's true.
Yeah.
So technically, in a way, I'm a veteran.
Well, tell you what.
Slow your roll, Marler.
Now that you are here and you are in a full guest host capacity, right? You're not just here for a quick little interview, right? You're here for the whole thing, right? You're not leaving in like 20 minutes or something?
If you'll let me be, sure.
Oh, all right. Well, then in that case, you, sir, are now an honorary Duke.
Aha.
Cool.
Yeah, we have a small island in the Pacific where we can actually bestow nobility.
Yes.
Is that a thing? Royalty? No, nobility.
Something.
I don't know.
Okay,
So-
I was going to ask what happens. That's pretty neat. So do I get like a portion of that island now? Is that like mine?
Yeah, but you have to work it.
And unfortunately, it's the size of a pair of dice. So it's a pair of dice sized slice of paradise.
This is getting really meta.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm dizzy.
Boy.
So real quick, let's tell me what we're doing here. We're going to talk about some board games at some point. This is episode 145, which we have titled Spielunking.
Yeah.
Spielunking, not spelunking. I don't just have a speech impediment. Spielunking. This is titled by Samish Harmon from our BGG Guild. And basically, because we're talking about the Spiel Des Jahres, and we're also talking about above and especially below, that's where kind of the spelunking comes in. So Spielunking. So that's fantastic. And then at the end of the episode, we're going to give you all of the runners-up from that fevered competition over in our Board Game Geek Guild, Guild number 2008. So Chaz.
Yes, sir.
Who are you? What is it that you do in board gamedom?
Well, I'm Chaz Marler of Paradise. I have my own YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/paradise. And I'm also a frequent contributor to the Dice Tower YouTube channel. And I'm a fresh partial owner of an island in the Pacific. And so while I'm not making plans to retire there, I record a lot of YouTube videos. Well, what do I do? That's a good question. I don't do a lot of hardcore traditional reviews as such. I usually do a lot of commentary, editorials, and have a series called Thrift Sift, where I look at games that I get at thrift stores and kind of talk about them in almost a Mystery Science Theater vein in a way. So I like to say sometimes that I talk about everything about board games except the board games themselves sometimes. So.
Okay.
Chaz, can I say on the Thrift Sift segment, I really hope you somewhere, I know in the video you get rid of it, but I really hope somewhere you've saved Divorce Court the board game and can break it out at a convention, because I'm really curious to see that alien piece of technology in person.
I have threatened several people to bring it to a convention and force them to play it with me. So yes, I still have it. It's locked in a lead container under my floorboards. And yeah, I don't think I could get rid of it it's kind of like a monkey's paw at this point, you know. I try to get rid of it, but it just keeps coming back. So
You have to very carefully word your wishes.
yes.
I feel like as an attorney, Like, I would write it out, and then I would give it to the paw and say, these are my exact intentions, paw. Fulfill them to the letter that I have written here. It'll be like 19 pages.
You would be a genie's nightmare.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I don't see how anything could go wrong with that.
Wait, did I just say we'll see? Like,
Yeah, as if you're about to be doing this. Is there some hidden genie that you're crafting a demand letter to?
I can't talk about it.
Okay, fair enough.
Move on. Let's move on, shall we? If you guys want to head over to dukesofdice.com, you can find the latest in the Wham! Reviews from We Are Matt, from our buddies Matt and Matthew, where they looked at the new Exit series from Cosmos, which is an escape room in a box. And they just looked at the something cabin.
The abandoned cabin, something like that.
Abandoned cabin, there you go. Which I actually got to play with them. And you'll talk about an escape room in a box experience a little bit, Alex.
Yeah, a non-Kenner Spiel nominated version of that experience. And oh boy, howdy, am I excited to talk about that one. Quickly, want to thank all of our Patreon patrons who help make this show possible. And Sean, we have a new one.
We sure do. I just want to thank Vandy Lim, who's a brand new Knight of the Duchy.
Okay.
So thanks for that. And we appreciate all the support over there. Also, Alex, you wanted to highlight this for some unknown reason, but
Back in the guild.
Longtime listener Tiger Mom wanted to know what guild members are. Are they a Sean or an Alex? Is it kind of like a Samantha? Are you a Samantha or I don't know any other names. Carrie, that's her one from Sex and the City, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And these polls tend to go badly for me from our own experience doing ducal research.
Well, but the scope was, are you like Sean in that you buy all the games and let your friends mooch off of you? Or are you like Alex and that you are the aforementioned moochie?
Yeah, moocher. No, you'd be
That's
a moocher.
Right. I'm the moochie.
A full-fledged moocher.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think it may have kind of gone beyond that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. And right now you're in the poll, the official poll.
There's three options in this poll. There is Sean,
Yep.
Alex, and Bacon. And current results as of right this second, Sean leading with 57.4% of the vote, Bacon coming in a strong second with 28%, and I'm sub 15%. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Chaz, I'm assuming you would fit in the Sean category based on those descriptions.
I don't know. I didn't realize that salted meat was an option, so I might lean that way.
Yep.
I mean, I think it's a little unfair that Bacon is one of the options, because Bacon is pretty good.
Well, but you're beating Bacon.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm not letting that get lost on me here. I'm just saltier. That's all.
Anyway. So thanks, Guild, I guess, for that. Appreciate it.
Well, if you'll recall, Alex, and this is a funny story, Chaz, a couple months ago, or a year ago, really, we did a poll just kind of to get a feel for our listeners' tastes in games, weights, things like that.
We asked a similar question.
No, you wanted this question
I know I did. I was curious.
Whose taste do you more align with, Sean or Alex?
And it was comparable results.
Yeah. So you wanted it, Alex. You wanted
and I got it.
You're a glutton for punishment.
Oh, boy, am I. All right, let's get into some board games. We've gone a little long without talking about that stuff. So, Sean, why don't you lead us off? What have you been playing this week?
So, Alex, I finally did it. I played Star Wars Rebellion. It happened.
Oh.
Finally.
Okay.
Finally. So one of my oldest friends, Ellie, who lives in Florida with his family, he's just now moved back to Phoenix where we grew up. And on the way out, he stopped here in Albuquerque and he stayed over one night and we got to play a bunch of games. We played a bunch of Star Wars Destiny and also Star Wars Rebellion. And so this is something that for the life of me, I don't know why it took so long for me to play this, given that I love Star Wars, given that's the kind of game I would enjoy.
And you owned a copy.
And I owned a copy. And I owned an insert from Meeple Realty.
Pledge your fealty to Meeple Realty.
So it's just crazy to me that this didn't get played this long. I had read the rules already. I was ready to go. So he's like, well, I'll teach you how to play. We'll play it. Great. Done. So we went to Empire when he was here this last Saturday. And we took it out. I was the Empire, of course, because that's you. That's what I do. And he was the Rebellion. And it was fantastic. It was so good. So just briefly, because I don't know that we'll review this. I don't even know that you would like it that much. I think the length of game, the dice rolling might be a bit much for you.
From looking at it and kind of seeing how it was playing out, it did not look something that had wide appeal for me.
So as the Empire, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find the hidden rebel base and then destroy it, either by sending in troops or by destroying the planet with one of my Death Stars. And the rebel player is trying to survive long enough, essentially. But if they accomplish certain objectives, or every turn they get some objectives, And it can be very specific stuff, like have a certain number of troops in a particular star system with no enemy presence there. Then they get an objective point, which basically shortens the timer that they have to outlast. And so it's a nice tension because sometimes they're doing some weird thing. You're like, oh, are they trying to protect their hidden base over there? Or are they just trying to complete an objective? And so you're trying to kind of figure out exactly where they are while they're doing all these different hit and run attacks everywhere else. And I unfortunately lost. The rebellion. Wait, were you doing the
No, I was just celebrating you losing.
Okay. But it was really good. It was excellent, Alex. This is definitely, this kind of Ameritrash type game with some Euro elements, I guess. I don't know that that's quite the case. But I thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. So going back and redoing a top 10 list of 2016, this will more than likely be on it. I want to get some more plays of it, obviously, but I think it's just fantastic.
Chaz, have you played this one?
Yes, I have. I got to play it with my wife, actually, I don't even remember if it was this year or last year at this point. I'm going to say the end of last year. And she really enjoys a really good, deep strategy game. And I think the thing she enjoys most about it is how much she mops the floor with me when we play these. But we played it together and she won. But I wanted to ask Sean, the part of the game that we had the most challenging and I've heard the most issues with is the dice, the iconography on the dice and the resolution of the combat system. Okay. Did you have any issues in your experience with that?
Yeah, I think initially it was kind of weird. So there are 3 symbols. There's a hit, there is a special symbol, and there's they also mean different things at different times, right?
Yeah.
So there's this neat mechanic where you are trying to carry out this mission or something in a particular system, and you can oppose it with some of your generals or characters or whatever. And so you're looking for certain symbols on the dice, and one of them's like a double success. But then in combat, they mean something different. Yeah, they were all kind of similar. Like they didn't quite stand out from one to another. I definitely think by a third of the way, half the way through, I was fine. But initially, yeah. And especially when they kind of meant different things at different times. That was a little weird.
Yeah. My experience was almost identical to yours. At first, it was a little bit of a speed bump getting into the game, but yeah, by midway through the game, you're used to it and it starts to make sense. And it wasn't really a hindrance to it. It was just, of everything in the game, that was the one thing that stood out to me as the largest potential learning curve in it.
How long was your game?
So, before we started playing, my daughter, who's 10, it was a weekend. It was a sunny, lazy afternoon on a weekend. And my daughter actually approached my wife and I and said, you know what? I want to watch a movie. So you guys can play a game together because you're always trying to play a game. And I'm going to watch my movie. It's like, whoa, cool. Okay. So we sat down and played, and it was a learning game. And we were being slow and methodical. So the game, I think, took in total near 3 hours from getting the box off the shelf, setting up, learning, playing the whole thing. About 3 hours. Afterwards, my daughter's movie had been long over. And all she did is she walked up to the table when we were putting it away, and she looked at us and said, well, that was a very long game. And then turned around and left. So to play it again, we need to find a night where she's either staying the night at a friend's house or we have a babysitter or something, because she's made it very clear that she's not going to sit through and wait after a movie ends for us to finish another game of it.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, we were about 2.5, 3 hours too. So, I've heard that initial games could take 4+ hours.
Definitely. Yeah.
But I think next time I'd be a lot quicker. So
yes, I think it's one that rewards multiple plays in the efficiency of the gameplay.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's my experience and Chaz's experience, and probably not Alex's experience.
I'll try it at some point.
Yeah,
I feel obligated.
I don't want to play it with you, I don't think.
Oh man,
I'll play it with you, but I get to be the Empire.
That's fine. No debate there.
That's Star Wars Rebellion from Fantasy Flight Games.
Chaz, why don't you go ahead? What have you been playing lately?
Well, the first game that I think the game that I have actually played most recently was one that I played last week at the CMON Expo with Marty Cannell of Rolling Dice and Taking Names. And if you guys are familiar, with Marty, recently, if you hang around with Marty for more than 12 seconds, you're going to hear about this game called Ethnos. And this is a area control type game. It does not have a very strong table presence. So a lot of people just kind of pass this game up. It's got this little undersized map, this board with like these 6 different color-coded countries on it. And it's a very unassuming little map. Actually, it's bland, to be honest. And then it's got these decks of different cards that each have these different factions, like trolls and ogres and fairies and minotaurs, and each of them also have different colors. So you'll have like green, in the fairy pile of cards, you'll have a green fairy, a purple fairy, a red fairy, so on and so forth. So what you're trying to do, it's actually dirt simple. On your turn, you're going to do one of 2 things. You're either going to take a card off, from the market, because there are going to be a series of cards splayed out on the table from the deck face up so you can see what you're choosing. So you're either going to choose one of these cards from the market or draw one blind off the deck and add it to your hand. Or you are simply going to play a set of cards from your hand, either all of the same creature type, like a whole bunch of different colored fairies, or you're going to play a bunch of cards that are all the same color, but can be different creatures. And whatever creature you have on the top of your set is going to be the one that is considered to be that set. So if you have like a fairy on the top, it is a bunch of fairies you're playing. So when you do that, you are going to also be putting a little token into the country that's color matches the color of the set of cards that you played. And you can play any number of cards. A set can be a set of 1. A set can be up to a set of 10 if you get super lucky. So you're going to play your set of cards and you're going to put your token in the corresponding country. And other people can also do the same to put their tokens in the corresponding colored country. And so what you're going to do is, whoever has the most of their token in a country is going to be considered having control of it and get its points. So when someone else puts their token in that same country, you're going to have to put another one in there. And how do you do that? Well, you got to play another set. But your next set has to have more cards in it than you currently have tokens in that country. If you played a set of 1, just 1 card on your first one, whoop, you get your token in there. But your next time, you're going to have to play at least 2 cards and get your second token in there. Then your next set is going to have to be at least 3. So as a game continues, it gets harder and harder to get more of your tokens in these countries and take over control of it. And like I said, that's it really to the game. There's a couple other, each faction that you play, like the ogres or the trolls or the minotaurs or whatever, they have a special ability when you play their set. So you have the little special abilities going off. And when you play a set of cards from your hand, you take every other card that's left in your hand and you discard it back to the open market. So whenever you play a set, all your leftovers become fodder for everyone else to snatch up. So that's kind of a neat balance. But it plays super fast. And it was super addictive when we played it. Every time we played it, it's like, oh, let's play that again. Play it 2 or 3 times a night. But like I said, it's very unassuming. It came in under a lot of people's radar. But like I said, Marty has really been a champion of this game. And after getting a chance to play it last week, I can really see why.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. So our buddy Mike Fitzgerald messaged me because we're going up to Rocky Mountain Gaming Vacation in a couple weeks. And he said, I'm going to bring Ethnos. You need to try this. It's really good. Let's get a bunch of plays in. And we'll probably talk about it ourselves on the show at some point. So yeah, it sounds really cool. And I'm really excited to give it a shot.
Yeah. Oh, heck, actually, after I got back from CMON, first thing I did is I went online and see right here next to me, I have a box of boxes. This box right here has Ethnos in it. It got delivered just this morning from the online game store. So yep, this box has Ethnos in it waiting to be opened. All thanks to Mr. Connell.
Wait, what game is on top there?
Oh, that will be, we'll talk about that in just a couple minutes.
Hey, let's talk about it now. Oh, wait, no, we're not going to change up.
No, for some reason.
No, you don't want to betray your numbering system you have.
No,
here.
well, it's not mine, not my system. Anyway, so that's Ethnos. I got in a couple plays last night at our Dukes of Dice game night, and the first of which I'll talk about was an escape room experience that we ended up having. Sean raising his hands in exasperation as this is yet again out of the order on the show notes.
Okay, so let me just note that at this point, I have probably edited out some of the discussion about us going out of order, but I'm just going to keep it in.
It's now unavoidable.
To just point out that in our show notes, it's numbered what order we're supposed to go in, and Alex is just throwing everything to the wind.
I'm a free spirit, Sean. You can't contain me. Or control me.
I can't keep the sky from you?
What?
Take the sky?
Okay.
Firefly. Anyway, never mind.
All right.
Move on, Alex.
So our buddy Cameron broke this one out. We had a group of 4 of us at the game night. And this is Escape the Room Mystery at Stargazer's Manor. Kennerspiel nominated Exit the Game. This is one by Think Fun. We set it up. It can play 3 to 8 players. It references this as a party night kind of game. You get this on the table. You set the mood. They recommend you come in period costume. They had a recommendation for period music. So we pulled out a phone and put on harpsichord music the entire time we were playing this. And set a timer for 2 hours for our player count, which was 3 to 5 players. It would be 90 minutes. Be a 90-minute clock if it were 6, 7, or 8 players. So we broke it open and went through it, and I don't want to spoil anything as far as the gameplay. Effectively, you're trying to for folks who don't know escape rooms, you're trying to solve puzzles to open up different doors and locks and combinations and move on to the next thing. I don't want to spoil the ending of this either, but what I will say is the group of the 4 of us, 4 gamers, we got done with this thing, keep in mind, with a 2-hour clock to do all of this stuff within this one-time use disposable box. We got through it in about a half hour, about 30 minutes. Pretty easily. And there was only one real sticking point, and no, we didn't ask for hints, and no, we didn't need hints. And then there was another option that comes up that I don't want to discuss too much because it might spoil something. In any case, it was too easy. Simply put, it was, at least for gamers, too easy. And as a result, for the folks listening to this, unless you're playing with children and you have kind of a party night for kids or one of those kinds of events, I have a hard time recommending this one. I don't know what the MSRP or cost is, but that was too little game for what's in the box there. It did a couple of cool things, I guess, but overall, it wasn't great. It wasn't a great experience.
Would you have been happy with an hour's worth of experience?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that would have been fine, or something that felt like it was a challenge. The problem was this did not feel like it was a challenge in any form or fashion.
You're just too smart, Alex. Too smart for your own good.
By the way, I strongly doubt that.
Even based on your response to it, I'm still looking forward to it. Because when I saw this on the list here, I actually have this very one on my shelf. I went and I grabbed it off my shelf. And we got it because I did hear it was kind of more the family-friendly, easier side. But I like I said, even after your response, I'm still looking forward to it because I plan on playing it with my family, which has a 10-year-old daughter. Plus, I'm a little bit of an idiot. So I think this will still be right up my family's alley.
I think it'll be fine. And what I'll say is it recommends 3 to 8. I think a group of 3 is perfectly fine for getting through this. And I think it actually would be just terrible if you had more than the count we had, which was 4. I think if you had a group of 8 people trying to get through this, because it's not like a typical escape room where you can be working on things in parallel, where one person can be trying to solve this puzzle, another person can be tackling this puzzle. The way this one goes, that's not the case. It's more linear. So, yeah, I don't want to spoil too much for you, Chaz, but I would stick with the 3 of you. And I'm curious what your response is after you actually play it.
Cool. I'll let you know.
Awesome. So that's Escape the Room Mystery at Stargazer's Manor.
So I had a couple different Kickstarter fulfillments this week, and one of them was a Crokinole board from Mayday Games. This was on Kickstarter about 9 months ago, so it's a pretty quick turnaround time, pretty quick fulfillment. Came in this big, 3 foot by 3 foot box, and beautiful wood Crokinole board. I think it looks fantastic. For the money, I think it's fantastic. I think it was like 120 maybe, which for what you're getting, like it kind of looks like this really nice centerpiece, right? You saw it, Alex.
It's beautiful.
I mean, I think the value there is really good. So Crokinole is a very highly rated game on BGG. It's been around for years and years and years, and it's basically a flicking dexterity game. So it's this big round board with, it's kind of divided into quadrants, and then there are a series of pegs that surround the circle in the center, and you're basically trying to flick your disc as close to the center. There's even a hole that's going to give you some bonus points if you can get it in there. And you flick it in there, but then you're also trying to flick your opponent's their discs out of the way or get them into kind of worse scoring positions. I think it's similar to curling. We don't have Eric Summer here to confirm that. But no, I love Crokinole. Every time we go to a con, it's usually set up somewhere out in their dexterity area, and Raquel and I will play a bunch. I'm surprised you had never played, Alex.
No, I never played this one, but I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
I'm excited. By the way, Chaz, full disclosure, we were a little bit late getting you on the horn here because we were upstairs playing Crokinole before the podcast. So sorry about that.
That was the big emergency, eh? Okay, I get it. I see. All right.
Let's be clear, Alex, here. You're the one that was like, oh, let's do one more round.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. It's my fault.
But
yeah.
I also agreed, so I guess I'm...
Look, you're the adult here, Sean. Everyone knows that.
I was worried about you guys. I was envisioning some sort of bear attack that you guys were dealing with, thinking that you were in dire straits. Oh.
Well, I'm very excited to have this in the collection. I think it's something that, I mean, even the other night, we just sat down and were like, oh, let's just play a couple rounds. We didn't play a full game, and so yeah, I think it's going to get some good use. I really wish Rory from Empire Board Game Library had gotten on this, because I think it'd be a great addition to any board game library.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I don't know where they'd put it.
Well, you keep it up on the site somewhere, and then when someone wants to bring it out, it just goes on a table.
Could be.
Like other board games.
Don't they recommend storing it flat, though, so it doesn't get warped over time?
Well, there's actually little eye hooks on the back, so you can hang it. I'm going to hang mine on the wall.
Cool. All right. There you go.
How do you care for a Crokinole board? Do you have to wax it or put anything on it to keep it nice and slick or anything? Or?
Yes. So the rule book for Crokinole has a whole care instruction at the end of it. And so, yeah, you're supposed to wax it and just buff it, keep it nice.
Read it a bedtime story.
Yeah. Tuck it in at night. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm really excited to have it. So
neat.
That's my Crokinole board from Mayday.
Chaz, what else have you been up to this past week or so, or however long we're going for?
Well, about 8 months ago, actually, I'm really excited to mention this. 20 minutes before we sat down to record, I got a package delivered to me in the mail that I was looking forward to. And I received a review copy of Ryan Lockett's Near and Far from Red Raven Games. Still has the shrink on it. I mean, you can hear it's still in the box there with all the box padding. I'm really looking forward to breaking this one out. I watched the Watch It Played tutorial on it a few weeks ago.
Both of us did the same. Yeah.
Yes. And I've been playing a lot of Legends of Andor with my family, my daughter and wife. And I thought that this was like the next kind of technical step after something like Legends of Andor. A little more complex, it seems, but it might still be a good kind of a family weight adventure that we can go on. So I'm really looking forward to finding out more about this one and maybe even making a video about it.
So both Alex and I actually got a play of it in last night, because my copy came yesterday and some other people's copies came in.
I think Max beat you by a day or two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's the other copy we had. We had two copies available.
And I mean, I think we might. So we're going to be reviewing this at some point in the future ourselves. And we'll probably talk a little bit about it in our double take when we're looking at Above and Below by the same publisher, Red Raven Games. And I'll just point out here, we don't have any details yet, but Red Raven did reach out to us. They said, hey, can we give you guys a review copy? And I'm like, I already Kickstarted it. They're like, okay, well, how about we give one away to your listeners? So, around the time that we will be reviewing Near and Far, we'll be running a contest to give away a copy of it. So just stay tuned for details. We'll announce them here on the podcast, probably next week, I think.
Yeah, probably.
So I'm very excited to hear your take on it, Chaz. I greatly enjoyed my first play, and I will leave it at that.
And I will echo that thought. It was really good, and I think you won't be disappointed if you like any of Lockett's other stuff. But we'll talk about that maybe more in detail in our Duke's Double Take. Yeah! All right, final thing I'm going to talk about is a game called Braggart. This one Cameron also brought.
Did you have trouble finding which game you were going to talk about? Because we're now all over the...
No, I had no problem at all.
There was a delay.
No, it's okay. There was a delay. Don't worry about it, Sean.
Okay, go on.
You do you, Sean. I'm going to do me. That's right. All right, Braggart. Braggart was a perfect end of the night kind of game. It's effectively, you're a bunch of heroes in a tavern telling tall tales, telling tales of your heroics, using cards you'll play from hand. You're building a scene. You will, that's optional. You can also throw out a foe and a deed. Those are the two that are required for a story, and then a result. So the scene and the result are optional, but they can help boost your score. Each round, you're going to lay out a story, and then you're going to go around the table and people can challenge your story by playing liar cards and saying, hey, it didn't happen that way. So, for instance, your foe in this story might have been an army of demons, and someone might say, oh, no, it didn't happen that way. Your foe was a street urchin. And they'll just swap out that card, and all of a sudden your story is a lot less impressive. And you're going to go around trying to have the strongest story and collect the most points over a number of rounds, effectively until the deck is empty. And that's the game. And we had a ton of fun with this. This was sort of gamers' Cards Against Humanity, even though I wouldn't even quite go that far because it's not nearly as dirty as Cards Against Humanity. Just that there can be some situations set up by some of the combinations in this that can be a little risque or over the top. We had a ton of fun. We were laughing our butts off and really, really enjoyed Braggart. It's not necessarily a great game mechanically, but in terms of the gameplay experience, had a ton of fun with it. So that's Braggart.
I don't think Chaz or I were paying attention to you because we were just renumbering your entry in our show notes.
Excellent. Well, why don't we go away from that section then, and let's go to the news. All right, this week in the news, we're starting off with Cool Mini or Not, aka CMON, because they are going to MAP, M-A-P-P, or Minimum Advertised Pricing Policy, quite shortly here, Sean. And what are we talking about when it comes to this, Sean?
So this is going to be effective June 1st, and basically it sets a minimum price that brick and mortar stores and I believe also online retailers can or have to abide by, setting their price when they sell it. And the idea here is that it doesn't undercut the perceived value of a game. And in theory, it's also supposed to kind of level a playing field. So if you're a brick and mortar store who's traditionally offering things at MSRP, sometimes with some sort of loyalty discount or some sort of program like that, versus say a Cool Stuff where you're usually getting it for like 30% off, that's kind of difficult. And so this is designed, and there are several other companies that do this. Mayfair does this. You know, the big story last year, or maybe the last 9 months ago, was when Asmodee kind of implemented something similar. I don't think it was technically a map policy, but it was something similar.
Yellow introduced a map policy last month. And yeah, Asmodee's is a little bit different. Theirs is more towards a minimum price towards online retailers. So it's a little bit of the
Right. So, I mean, I think the idea here, like I said, is also the protection of the brand and, like I said, the perceived value. So, and I think I see this a lot, right? Like, for example, our friends over at Blue Peg, Pink Peg, they will talk about what, you know, the availability of a game and the value of a game based on what they can get it online versus, say, what the MSRP is. So a game MSRP is $60, but like, oh, we can find it online for 40. And so that's kind of become their perceived value. I think that's true for a lot of people. I don't know. I feel like a couple years ago, I would have had more of a problem with this than I do now. I feel like I kind of get it. And I've always been a proponent of supporting your friendly local game store. If you have a friendly local game store, and if you're taking advantage, not taking advantage, but if you're using the facilities, if you're, you know, benefiting from having a community there, demo games, things like that. So I think this offers some protection for them, but at the same time, I don't know that that's, I mean, remember how Asmodee kind of came in as a white knight, like, oh, we're going to protect the brick and mortar stores. It's like, no, that's not really your goal. Maybe you're helping doing that, but I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts?
I think there is one thing to clarify here first before any further discussion, is that the map is a minimum advertised price. And so if that affects the price that they can display publicly in print and online media advertising and such. If they are at an event like a convention, they are allowed to sell the game for any price they want. And also theoretically, from my understanding of the verbiage and the documentation, in the store, they could have an unsolicited in-store price sale. They could reduce the price down whatever they want, as long as it's in-store unsolicited price difference. Right. So it's not a floor on what they can sell the game for. It's a floor on public advertising of price. Still not a fan.
Yeah. So like a store is free to, if they just want to have a clearance, you know, it's game's not selling, they need to put it on the clearance rack and sell it for half off. I mean, they can do that. They just can't tell anyone about it. Yeah, exactly. And
Alex is really quiet on this. Maybe it would be safer if he chimed in.
Well, here's the thing. I don't buy a lot of games, as we learned from the Guild poll. And ultimately, this doesn't affect me so much. Also, I don't think I own a single CMON game. I used to own a CMON game, which I then resold for apparently way too little. My first edition copy of Zombicide, which makes Sean cringe every time he hears the story.
Your Kickstarter edition of Zombicide, which you sold in a virtual flea market for $80, Alex. I would have bought it. Was it 80?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
I would have bought it for $80.
No, I actually thought it was less in my mind. I thought it was 50, but apparently not. In any case, yeah, look, I generally support any efforts to support brick and mortar stores whenever possible. If this has that intended effect, so be it. I think CMON's I don't know. I don't have any strong thoughts on this one. Mainly, I think it's because I'm just not in the game marketplace all that often. And CMON doesn't make the kind of games a lot of times that I tend to pick up. I think there, with a couple of exceptions. I think Potion Explosion, that was a CMON one, yes?
Yep.
Okay. That's one of the few that I've had a strong interest in of late from them. So, at least for me, it doesn't have a strong effect on me. So, that's why I'm so quiet, Chaz. It's because I don't have anything to say.
You don't have a dog in this fight.
What?
You don't have a dog in this fight.
I do not.
Okay. You're dogless.
Yeah.
In this particular fight.
Watchdog Alex has no dog.
Okay.
Sean, then I guess I'll ask you the question. Some may see this as an artificial inflation of the marketplace,
sure.
The prices, and trying to, create this baseline, institute this baseline unnaturally where, the consumerism would take care of it, on its own. And what are your feelings on that?
So I get that. And I also get the pressure from other companies doing the same. I mean, it's kind of the thing, well, if everyone else is doing it, we might have to as well. I mean, don't get me wrong. I have certainly enjoyed deep discounts online, and I think that's fantastic. And given the volume of games that I've had to buy for this podcast, that certainly has been helpful. But at the same time, it can be a bit frustrating because at a certain point, someone's like, okay, I'm not going to pay $60 for this game. I'd pay $40 for it, but I'm not going to pay $60 for it. And so this is a means, like you said, to kind of artificially inflate that value. And for whatever reason, I'm more okay with it now than I would have been a couple years ago. I can't tell you why exactly. Oh, wait. It's because I've worked for big banks and insurance companies. Hail Hydra. Yes.
They've gotten to Sean.
Yeah, I could certainly understand frustration a lot of people would have with this. And I think the other thing, too, what does make this a little bit difficult is there are certainly a lot of times when I say, I'm not going to kickstart something because I'll wait to get it cheaper at retail. But then companies that I know have this policy or a similar policy in place, I'm more likely to back because I'm like, well, I'm not going to really get it that much cheaper at retail. And now I'm going to miss out on these really sweet acrylic gem pieces or something.
Yeah, I can understand that balance, the potentially missing out on the Kickstarter exclusives versus getting it cheaper at retail. I have plans that in a couple of weeks, if I'm really in the mood to bite the hand that feeds me, doing at least one or two videos on this subject is in kind of my Monday editorials. But one thing that I find is kind of, I don't know, do you see a common thread in this? I mean, because if you're a FLGS and you can't, advertise discounts online, that's one thing. But then you also have your dedicated online retailers. They're no longer able to they have to now adhere to an MAP policy. It seems possibly to some that this MAP pricing policies are skewed a little more heavily against the online retailers,
right,
trying to rein in what's naturally occurred with online stores, the pricing that they can do with the reduced overhead. Now, I'm not saying that online stores have it easy. Every problem they don't have because they don't have a physical marketplace. They have a different problem that they have to resolve. And so I think that there are different types of overhead that are just not completely not revealed instantly, aren't as easily seen to the public. But it seems like these policies are sometimes skewed towards trying to penalize the online retailers a little more heavily than the FLGSs, the physical stores.
And what's interesting, like with Asmodee, they kind of had a little carve out where certain online retailers had a bit of an exception. And then like the big box stores also had a bit of an exception with the Asmodee policy.
That was really nice and convenient for Asmodee.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, I don't think necessarily that this is CMON saying, oh, we're going to help the little brick and mortar stores. I think you're right by kind of penalizing, we'll use that, I guess, the online stores. In theory, that helps brick and mortar. But at the end of the day, they're doing this because I think it just ultimately affects their bottom line. Now,
I agree.
Yeah. Now, to what extent does it affect their bottom line by helping the brick and mortar stores? Because that's where you're capturing the majority of new buyers, right?
No, I don't think so.
No?
I don't know. I think the banner of we're doing this to help the friendly local game stores, not saying that's what CMON's doing, but any time a person in the industry waves that banner, I think it's a bunch of horse feathers. Because I don't think that the friendly local game stores, having them, again, if they are artificially propped up, it's not actually helping the industry. It's just prolonging the inevitable. If this is the way that every other industry that has an online component is going, it is inevitable where board games are eventually also going to go there. So instead of trying to slow this down and pull us backwards into a marketplace that's more convenient for certain, publishers and stuff, instead, I'm thinking energy should be put into adapting and innovating to try and capitalize on this change instead of fighting it. And that may not be, that might mean that in 10 years from now, the friendly local game store does not look like it currently does. But if that's the case, and we force it to continue to look that way in 10 years, well, it's going to cause stagnation and actually do more damage for this industry than it's going to help, because it's not going to be the change that the consumer wants.
I just don't want to see friendly local game stores with tentacles. So as long as we can avoid that reality, I'm fine.
Well, I make no promises.
Okay.
Hey, in other news, we have SDJ nominees, the Spiel des Jahres. As I always continually, it might be Yaris. I can never pronounce it properly.
Okay.
That's the best. I'm going to go with SDJ and KSDJ for the remainder of the episode as best as I can, as a result of my inability to pronounce things.
The K being Kenner.
Yes.
Which is connoisseur.
Yes. So let's start off with the SDJ nominees. This year we have 3, and they are King Domino from Bruno Cathala. We have Magic Maze from Casper Lapp, and, oh boy, Wetlauf nach Eldorado from Rainer Knizia.
We just call it Eldorado over here.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's a Ravensburger game. I actually have Eldorado on the way.
Okay.
And I believe Magic Maze is getting a printing in June here in the U.S.
Okay. I've only played King Domino out of this bunch, as have you, Sean, I think. Have you played any more than just that one, Chaz?
No, that's the only one.
Yeah. And it's a little hard to handicap the field at this stage without having played more than one of them. So I will say, for the record, King Domino, I think, is excellent.
Well, yeah, I would agree with that. Also, we should probably just point out what the Spiel des Jahres are.
No.
Because I'm just saying.
No.
So it is the premier board game award in Germany. So these are for titles that have been printed in Germany. And so sometimes you'll see a title like years later that was in the US, previously, and you're like, oh, well, finally it just got printed in German. And in a lot of ways, these are, for a long time, this has been a very coveted award, and I think it continues to be. And then about 5 or 6 years ago, they introduced the Kennerspiel, which is kind of more of the gamer games. And then there's also the Kinderspiel, which is the kids' games,
yes,
which we don't usually talk about too much.
Although I have played one of them.
Yeah.
One of the noms this year. We'll get to that. Kennerspiel noms, to go in order on the list here instead of going out of order. We have Exit Das Spiel from Inka Brand and Marcus Brand. That's the aforementioned escape room board game. Also, you can check out the Wham review on our website. Hooray! There's Rauber der Nordsee, or Vikings of the North Sea. That's from Shem Phillips. And then, oh, hey, this is pretty familiar. Terraforming Mars from Jacob Frixelius.
Yeah.
How about that?
So Renegade Game Studios just announced that they are bringing Vikings of the North Sea over to the U.S., although I don't think that will be in time for us to play it before the winners are announced. I believe
they're announced in mid-June, I think, this year, is what I believe the announcement said.
The Kinderspiel comes out one week, and then the Kenner and regular Spiel come out the following week. So I just guessing, I bet you Terraforming Mars takes it. That's my guess. Having played 2 of the 3,
right,
having heard fantastic things about Vikings of the North Sea, a game that I'm very excited to try, I'd still bet Terraforming Mars is my gut. That's what my gut says, Alex.
I've only played one of the 3 as I haven't gotten any of these exit ones in, though my guess is I'll have played it before the award itself is announced. I'll have played at least one of the exit games. My guess is Terraforming Mars is probably your favorite here, but I haven't played Vikings, and it's just kind of an X factor. Where are you at with this one, Chaz?
I lean towards Terraforming Mars as well, because that one seems to still be having a lot of momentum going for it.
I feel like at least every other Dukes of Dice Wednesday night, it hits the table. It was someone in the group.
Yes.
I mean, even Scythe hasn't been doing that.
Correct. Yeah, it's had staying power, for sure. Yeah, Scythe dominated the tables when it was first out there for a while and dominated for a number of weeks. But Terraforming Mars has seemed to have a little bit more longevity, at least at Empire.
Yeah.
So, and then finally, the Kinder Spiel des Jahres.
Yes.
We have Captain Silver from Wolfgang Derscherl, something like that, and Manfred Reindl. We have Der Mysterious Wald from Carlo Rossi, and Ice Cool from Brian Gomez.
Yeah.
Yeah, go Ice Cool.
I know that game.
Oh, yes. And I actually just played that one pretty recently. I think at the last Dukes of Dice game night.
Did you really?
Maybe.
Okay.
Or was that on a Saturday? No, it was a Saturday. I played it on a Saturday.
Good. Glad we sorted that out.
Yeah, that was very important for all the listeners out there. Have you played any of these, Chaz?
I have not played any of this set.
Oh, you got to try Ice Cool.
Ice Cool is so good. It is.
That's the penguin flicking one, right?
Yes. The Penguin Hall Monitor identity theft game.
Yeah.
And if you go to the YouTube channel, my Ice Cool video has the most amazing trick shot in slow motion that I will never be able to reproduce in an actual game.
What did you do? I actually haven't seen this.
It was so I flicked it over a building, through one door, off a wall, through another door.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's in slow motion. It's awesome.
Whoa.
I'm the greatest. But again, I'll continue to lose every game of it I play from now on.
Yeah.
But it's on video.
So anyway, those are your Spiel nominees, broadly speaking. Again, it's hard to judge how this stacks up as far as a class goes compared to years past. We'll be talking later in the episode, not too much later in the episode, about our top 6 Spiel and Kenner Spiels of all time. So we'll get to that in a bit. But first, Kickstarter. So this week for our Kickstarter, we're talking about the expansion to Role Player, Monsters and Minions. What do we got cooking with this one, Sean?
Okay, I am really excited. I loved Role Player. I think when we reviewed it, I gave it a 5. You gave it a 4, Alex?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, have you played Role Player, Chaz?
I haven't, but I have heard so much about it, and it's all been good.
Yeah, I love it.
It's worth trying. For
It is such an interesting puzzle. The conceit of the game that you're just building this role-playing character and then you're done is interesting. But now they're kind of doing away with that because now you're doing something with your character with this Monsters and Minions expansion. Ooh. And it doesn't seem like it's adding too much more in terms of time to the gameplay, but it's adding in terms of the availability of what you're able to do. So as you're building the character, you're trying to gather information about this looming threat, this big bad that is threatening the village. And so there are these different cards that are going to kind of give you bonuses when you, at the end of the game, are able to fight this monster. And so what makes this a little bit different is as you're rolling your dice and you're placing dice out, there are new dice, these boost dice, that instead of being 1 through 6, are now 3 through 8, which can certainly help fill up some of those attribute rows. And then when you're going to the market, instead of that, you can choose to go out on a hunting for minions, which can give you the honor points, the victory points, but also give you experience points. And experience points is kind of a new currency you could spend for fighting and for upgrading characters and things like that. So there's a lot going on here in this expansion. It adds a 5th player. It adds a solitaire mode. It's got 12 new classes of heroes, 2 new races. I am really excited for this. I read the rules for it a couple days ago, and I think I was telling out you and Matthew in chat, Alex, that I was just super stoked for this. So I backed this already. It's $39, and if you're here in the US, you're going to get free shipping. So that's, I think, a pretty solid price for this expansion. And there's also the ability to get the base game if you want to add on. And there's actually 2 different price levels. There's one if you want to wait to get it at the same time, and then there's a more expensive version if you want to get the base game as soon as possible. But yeah, I'm really excited. Alex, how does all that sound to you?
It sounds like fun. I'm excited for you to get your copy and play it.
Excellent.
Yeah, so that is the roleplay expansion, Monsters and Minions. If you want to get in on that one, June 15th is your time to do it. That is our Kickstarter, and that is a look at the news.
In these turbulent times, you can't just let yourself become adrift in the flow of history. Instead, you need to
Wait. Hang on.
Yeah.
Aside from your presidential speech here, Sean, and this isn't Independence Day, so ease up. That sounded like an interesting name for a game there, Flow of History. Is that being done yet?
Yeah, but there's no aliens involved like Independence Day.
Oh, okay.
So Flow of History is yet another innovative game designed from Taiwanese designer Jesse Lee, who also designed Ponzi Scheme. This is a civilization game where players are developing their nation using a unique bidding and price-setting mechanism to purchase new cards. But what is paid to the supply might also be harvested into the pockets of other players later, which puts a bit of a twist on your strategy for bidding and also cleverly simulates an economic inflation for the game.
Flow of History is up on Indiegogo right now.
Tasty Minstrel Games recently moved their Flow of History campaign from Indiegogo to Kickstarter.
It's being done by Tasty Minstrel Games. You can check out that game and all of TMG's awesome titles at playtmg.com. As Oscars are to movies, the Spiel is to board games. But which Spiel or Kennerspiel winner is the best of all time? We're about to tell you.
All right, so the three of us have prepared our top 6 lists of, well, it was technically supposed to be Spiel and Kennerspiel winners, and then I kind of looked at my list, and I'm like, So I decided to branch out into nominations as well.
This is Sean's fault. All of it.
But you did it too, right, Alex?
I ultimately did it as well.
Okay, now question. Did you give our fair guest a heads up that he could do that?
I think I gave him a heads up. Yeah, I gave Chaz a head. Right, Chaz?
The numbering is all akimbo. You're doing nominees and winners. I don't know what's going on anymore.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So, anyhow, this is either a top 6 winners or a top 6 nominees and winners, depending on which list you look at. If you know our top 6 lists, you know that oftentimes they can devolve into chaos like this. Oftentimes because I've decided to give an unranked version of a list of 6. This is not a list of 6, by the way.
You ranked them.
I did rank them.
Oh.
This is a properly ranked list.
Oh.
So.
All right, good.
Yeah, good. Before we get into the list, I thought this was interesting to set context. We did ask, as we always do, for help from the guild and got a number of lists from folks, and those are all awesome. I thought Ben Ogden captured a little bit of why this matters, and I'll read what he wrote. Ben Ogden says, I really just got into the hobby last year at the end of 2015. I didn't really know much about any of the awards. I had bought a copy of Codenames on a whim at a Black Friday sale at my friendly local game store, and it, not surprisingly, hit our table like crazy. I'd also picked up an unpunched copy of Isle of Skye at a local used bookstore, also on a whim, and it quickly became a favorite as well. When the SDJ award winners came out last year, and I looked into what the awards were, and Codenames and Isle of Skye had won, I was oddly proud that I owned a copy of both. It was a neat experience, and it really vaulted my interest in the hobby. So that's what Ben had to say, and yeah, it's interesting enough. This award, although it's a German award, carries a lot of weight over here. And it also becomes something to root over, Sean. As we've discussed these nominees every year, there always tends to be a game that we'll be pulling for.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's different games, sometimes it's the same game. But for whatever reason, this is something that you kind of build a rooting interest in. So to me, it struck me as hugely important. And when you look in the past at some of the games that have won this, it is a laundry list of certainly very impactful games and games that have lasted in the hobby. You're talking a Settlers of Catan, you're talking a Dominion, you're talking a Pandemic, which may or may not get mentioned later at some point. So it's oftentimes, and Pandemic didn't win, to be clear. Pandemic was a nominee.
You're talking about Pandemic or Pandemic Legacy?
Well, both were nominees and both were nominated, but neither won.
Just making sure.
Anyway, just throwing that out there. So it's an award that feels very important to me anyway. And there are other ones that we participate in. Dice Tower Awards are going to be coming up here in about a month or so. We mentioned the Origin Awards not too long ago. Is this the premier award? Is this the top award in your eyes, Sean?
Well, that depends. I mean, are you talking from an objective standpoint or from a subjective standpoint? Like for me, the award I probably care most about is the Portuguese Jogo de Anos, which is all of the medium-heavy games. So as far as like things that should be on my radar for that weight of game, that's what it is. I don't know. I think probably, yeah, maybe this is the most prestigious, even though I don't necessarily always agree with the choices, or like we had an episode a while ago, probably last year around this time, where we kind of talked about how the weight of nominees has kind of changed over the years, that like some games that were that are nominated for the Kenner years ago could have been nominated for just the regular Spiel when there was only the one. So yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, I guess so. I mean, I think this is probably the first one that people would go to. What do you think, Chaz?
I think the Spiel Des Jahres is the one that has the most name recognition or clout in the industry. It's one of the oldest, if not the oldest. Right. I think it is one that I think carries a lot of weight.
And so one of the reasons that I wasn't crazy about my list of winners is because there is a good chunk of time, I'd say in the 2000s, in that decade, where there's a bunch that I haven't played. I mean, I was playing board games in that time period, but only like the really big name Euros kind of were on my radar. And so I wondered, do we need to go back and try and pull out some of these old winners? As much as you were talking up the recent winners, right? I feel like maybe we should kind of look back at some of these. I'll put that on your shoulders, Alex. You go hunt them down.
No problem. And what may help this, not that I can't think of a Spiel or Counterspiel winner that's being picked up by Restoration Games, but maybe trying some of that push there may encourage publishers to bring back some of these old classics. Certainly we saw that with Around the World in 80 Days, which we just talked about a couple of episodes back, which was a retheming of the first ever Spiel winner,
Hare and Tortoise.
Yes, yes indeed. So let's get into the list, why don't we?
Number 6.
All right, starting off at number 6 is a game that has actually been out there for a few years, but is one that has become a recent favorite for me. And I was actually introduced to this one by the name father, Steve O'Rourke on the Guild, who I do not have a beef with.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
You watched me and David play it.
Yeah, I know.
Years ago.
Yeah, but I wasn't paying any attention.
All right, whatever.
Anyway, I first played this because of the name father.
Say the name of the game, Alex.
It's Targi, which was a 2012 nominee, and this is a 2-player only game, for folks who don't know, where you're trying to collect various resources. You're going to build tribes into a little tribe tableau in front of you. You can also trade in a certain amount of goods or gold for points, and you're trying to score the most points effectively at the end of the game as this awesome robber's going around. The key mechanic that really makes it sing to me is that placement of trying to create interesting intersections in the board to ultimately build tribes. It works really, really well. I've had a ton of fun with this one, and it's quickly become one of my favorite 2-player only games. So that is Targi, my number 6.
Definite honorable mention for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. If I had known our lists could include nominees, it would have been on mine, definitely.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, my number 6 is Las Vegas by Rudiger Dorn, published by Ravensburger. This was a 2012 nominee for the Spiel. And interesting, Chaz, I don't know if you recall, but you and I played this together at Dice Tower Con. Hey, look at that.
Yes, we did. And I don't know if you know this, but one of my 8 gray dice stayed at Dice Tower Con.
Oh, no.
And I've gone through 3 different sets of gray dice trying to find one that's the right color and the right size, and I still haven't found one.
Well,
but that was one of my favorite games that I played at that Dice Tower Con was playing in Las Vegas with you.
Oh, cool. Well, I loved it. In fact, I loved it so much. And so that was your first Dice Tower Con. It was my first Dice Tower Con. And I remember you had this whole box of games that were broken down into their components. Mm-hmm. So basically you could just bring a bunch of games without having all the space. And it blew my mind. So this is it's such a simple game, but it's so fun. It's so entertaining. There's a little bit of push your luck. Basically, there are these different casinos that you're trying to have the most dice on to get the most money that they're worth in a given round. And so you're rolling a handful of dice, and whatever numbers wind up, so let's say you've got 2, 2, 4, and then 5, 5, 5. You pick one number, and then all of the dice of that number go on that particular casino. And you're then left with those dice and the remaining dice in subsequent rounds. And so it's like, oh, do I want to fight over here? Do I want to, give this up? There's also the cool mechanism where if I have 2 dice in a casino, Chaz, you have 2 dice in a casino, we're tied. At the end of the round, if Alex has the 1, he wins that particular casino because we kind of knock each other out. Mm-hmm. And I just love this game. So not trying to one-up you here, Chaz, but I haven't had to just replace my dice. I have had to replace my copy because one day, about 6 months ago, my daughter Chewy, 2.5 at the time, managed to find it and decided to start playing it on her own. She destroyed the cards. I still find dice to it all over the house.
Every now and then, just find one like behind a door or something.
Yep. And this little bit of anger rises up into me, and I'm like, that's okay. I already bought a replacement copy. I have it sealed with Hugo's amazing tape, so she will have a little bit more difficulty getting into it. But I think it's just such a fantastic game. And
it's one of my top 5 favorite games of all time. I love it. And it's one I love being an evangelist for, too. I think it's a great game.
It's quick. It's easy to teach. And it's really engaging.
Why have I not played this yet?
Oh my! Oh, you've played this.
What?
Have I played this?
You have played this.
Really?
We played it upstairs at the table with Mariah. You have played this game. Oh my God! I'm so upset.
Are you sure that was in Lords of Vegas?
No, I'm 100% positive you've played this.
I'm gonna go look at. There's a copy sitting right there. And since I have some time due to our snake style of list here,
no, you're not.
I'm gonna go look at that and try and remind myself.
So basically, I have the extra box in our YouTube studio.
Oh, it's not full of anything.
Yeah, it doesn't have anything in it.
Man, okay.
It's full of broken dreams.
Yes, exactly.
Apparently.
We'll go play Las Vegas upstairs when we're done because it takes like 15 minutes.
Okay.
So disappointed right now.
We could do Crokinole too.
Anyway, that's my number 6, Las Vegas.
Well, my number 6 is the Spiel des Jahres winner from 2004, Ticket to Ride. And I picked this as my number 6 because, honestly, personally speaking, it's not one of my favorite games, but I can appreciate what it did for the board game hobby. It is the quintessential gateway game. It's brought a lot of people into the hobby. It's got lots of variations with different varying degrees of difficulty. So there's it's kind of a ticket to ride for everyone that you can find to fit your tastes. So like I said, I can appreciate what it's done for all of us board gamers. So that's why Ticket to Ride comes in at number 6.
This one was an honorable mention for me, if only because I tend to play this one a lot. My folks actually ended up buying a copy of Ticket to Ride Europe because my dad loves Ticket to Ride so much that he ended up getting a copy so he could play it, and he doesn't like games. So this was a strong one as well. I agree with you in terms of the impact it's had. If you were talking about top 6 most impactful ones, it's easily on my list.
Number 5.
My number 5 is another game that I appreciate, even if it's not necessarily one of my favorites. And this is the year 1983 Spiel des Jahres winner, Scotland Yard. And this one, I actually never played this game until about 2 years ago. My best friend had it in his closet since he was in like 2nd grade, and he always wanted to play it. It never happened. So we started getting together again about 4 years ago, and he brought it to our game night one night, and he's like, I found this in my basement. We're playing Scotland Yard. Yeah. So we got his wife and his brother-in-law and my wife and me. We sat down, we played it, and my best friend's brother-in-law was the Mr. X that we're trying to find, and we just did miserably. This game could be summed up in 2 words: impossible. However, after we got done playing and Mr. X eluded us so easily, I did, find out from my friend that his brother-in-law, who was playing the part of Mr. X, used to be a Marine, doing covert operations and stuff. So,
oh man,
he had a little bit of experience in not being found. So I think that gave him an edge, possibly.
Nice.
Yeah, this is that style of game's one I like a lot better than Sean does. Hidden movement is a cool mechanic, and I don't play it with games with that mechanic often enough. And for Sean, for whatever reason, it's just a mechanic he does not like.
I've come to hate it. I remember enjoying my first several plays of Scotland Yard, and then they kind of soured. I didn't enjoy Spectre Ops. I didn't enjoy.
I know.
What's one? Letters from Whitechapel. I kind of am okay with Fury of Dracula, the new edition, because it's got enough extra chrome on it that. But yeah, hidden movement, not my cup of tea.
It's definitely a fickle system to get right.
Yeah. All right. Well, my number 5 is the 2016 Spiel des Jahres winner, and that's Codenames by Vladislav and published by Czech Games Edition. And I just think this game is so fantastic. It is Battleship and what's the other one? Battleship and
Scrabble?
Password? Battleship and Password?
No, Password.
Something like that?
Yes.
Yeah. And you're trying to get people to guess these words that are out in a grid. There's the spy theme that's on it. That's whatever. But it's just such a fun time. I know one of your complaints, Alex, is that there's this period of like thinkiness where everyone kind of gets quiet. I don't have a big issue with that. Eventually you're kind of on a roll and you're thinking about what you're going to do on your opponent's turn. It's this great team game. So often at Empire, it's something that we kind of bring out at the beginning of the night as people are coming in. We're like, hey, jump in, because you could just totally do that. And then once we've all kind of figured out who's here, then we break off into other games. And I just have so much fun with this. I am not as big a fan of Codename Pictures. I have Codenames After Dark, which is fine. But I'm very excited for the forthcoming Codenames Duet, which is a 2-player version. And there's also a Codenames app coming out at some point, which I'm also excited for. So, and I think it's great. Codenames. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand why it belongs on the list, and I think it's one that's it certainly has had lasting appeal already, and I think it's going to continue to be one that's going to get pulled out more often than games that I would enjoy more than that, if that makes sense. It has more staying power. I don't enjoy the plays as much, but I think it's one that fits in more situations and tends to come out more. So I've certainly seen it at Empire a lot, and I expect to see it more going forward. Does that make any sense?
Sure, why not?
Excellent.
Yeah, you got it.
All right. My number 5 is a game that has hit the table quite a bit, and hey, it's one I own. This is the 2014 Spiel winner, and it's Camel Up, or as people wrongly call it often, Camel Cup.
No.
And, yeah, it's not Camel Cup. Cut it out, people. No, I seriously, I ran into a lot of game groups, especially with folks when I was in New Zealand, who refused to call it anything but Camel Cup, and it bugged me.
Okay, 2 points. 2 points to consider.
Yes.
Okay, I'm not fully committed, but just devil's advocate.
Yes.
Right? 3 points, right? Obviously.
Oh, okay, now we have 3.
There's the fact that the C...
Well, he's numbering them weird. So
the C can be applied to both the camel and the up.
Okay.
On the box art. The Norwegian entry, I believe, on Board Game Geek is for Camel Cup. And
Typo.
The expansion is Super Cup.
Okay.
I'm just throwing those out there. And it's not Super Up, it's Super Cup. So
I don't know why we'd have to go into the Norwegian listing as evidence here.
I'm just throwing those out there for your consideration.
Printed on the award, it is Camel Up.
I understand.
That is the name of the game.
I understand.
All right. Any case, this is one, for folks who don't know, you're basically betting on, it's a betting game. You're betting on these 5 camels as they make one lap around the board, potentially setting oases or pitfalls to try and speed up or slow down the camels, making short-term and long-term bets, and it's a ton of fun. Looks great on the table. Always love the pyramid dice rolling mechanism, although with enough time, that thing does wear down in a hurry, or can wear down in a hurry. It's one that I find hits the table quite a bit, and one that I've suggested in a number of situations. It's easy to teach, and it works really well. Camel Up, not Camel Cup, is my number 5.
Fantastic game. Yeah, my short list too.
Number 4.
All right, my number 4 is Isle of Skye, the 2016 Kenner Spiel winner. And this is one that really grew on me, Sean. I don't remember what score I gave it when we reviewed it. I think I probably gave it a 5.
Yeah, you gave it a 5.
It would be inching very close to a 6.
Oh.
Off with more thought and more plays. It's one that every time it's hit the table, that auction system, and seemingly no matter the player count, has worked really well. The tile placement system is really cool. The variability of the different scoring options triggering at different times in different orders is a nice option. And it's just a beautifully designed game by Alexander Pfister, who hopefully we'll be talking to in a upcoming Patreon interview episode of the Dukes of Dice.
Also, and Andreas Pelikan, too.
Yes.
We always forget Andreas Pelikan.
Poor Andreas Pelikan. Any case. So, yeah, Isle of Skye. It's definitely a very worthy Pfister tile, and it does that tile placement type of game well. Really, really well. And I enjoy it as a result. That's my number 4, Isle of Skye.
My number 4 is Concordia by Mac Gertz. This was one of the nominees for the Kenner in 2014. And this is just a really interesting hand management, resource management game where you are playing these cards from your hand in order to do stuff on this map of the Mediterranean. It's a Roman, ancient Rome themed game. And you're trying to spread out your trading houses across the map. You're trying to get different resources so that you can, turn them into to build new things, but also to acquire new cards so that you have kind of enhanced abilities when you play them from your hand. But also all of your cards are going to let you score certain things. So the more cards you have, the more you're going to be able to score as you fulfill the requirements on those cards. it's not that difficult of a game complexity-wise, but I think there's a ton of depth here. What I haven't done is I haven't played any of the expansions, and it's really disappointing that I haven't. So there's like the Salsa expansion, which introduces resource, and then it has different map. There's a Britannia map. There's all these different maps, kind of like, Power Grid or Ticket to Ride, that just kind of give you a little tweak. I haven't played any of those, and I think it's just a travesty that I haven't. I absolutely adore Concordia. Do you even remember it, Alex?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that one I remember playing.
Okay.
I did play Concordia, and I enjoyed elements of it. It might have been a timing thing. I certainly played it fairly early into doing the podcast, relatively speaking. I think my tastes have drifted just slightly heavier, and maybe it falls more into the sweet spot. For me, it didn't scratch the itch as well as another nom from that year that I might talk about later on my list. So,
all right.
Yeah. So that's Concordia. Sean's number 4.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that. I was really tired of talking.
Good.
Okay, my number 4. Unless, Alex, you want to introduce it for me? I'm not sure how we're working.
It's Dominion.
Now.
It's Dominion, the 2009 winner.
Let me point out real quick, Chaz, that when we play games with Alex, 2 of his favorite things to do are to present to you all the options you have on a turn.
Yes.
Well, if you want, you can do this, or you can do this, or you can do this. And then I usually respond with, thank you, Alex. I know. I taught you how to play the game. And then the second thing Alex likes to do
I don't do this second thing you're about to say anymore. I don't do it anymore.
Is move your pieces for you when you're not asking him.
Yeah, I haven't done that. I used to do that.
All right, I'll keep an eye on that.
Yeah, it's in the past.
Okay.
That's old Alex.
Well, as a co-host, it makes my job so much easier when you do my material for me. So
happy to help, Chaz.
The podcast recording was a breeze.
I'm that word.
My number 4 is 2009's winner, Dominion. Because now this is a game that I do not only appreciate, but I also really enjoy. My best friend, who I mentioned before, it's his favorite game, so I play it every time we get together. So it still hits the table quite frequently in my game group. And, it's the granddaddy of the deck building genre. I remember hearing about this game for the very first time. I was talking to a friend of mine on the phone. He was describing this weird game where you actually made your deck and bought coins and land with it. I remember listening on the phone and having to sit down to kind of just, focus in and comprehend what he was telling me about because I hadn't heard anything like this before. So Dominion definitely earns a spot on my list at number 4 just because of its place in the hobby as a whole. And I still enjoy it.
I agree with you, Chaz, in that my mind was absolutely blown when I heard about this concept of, I'm building my own deck. And yeah, it was one of the first board games I played when I got into the hobby. And yeah, that along with Settlers of Catan, both were things that had me completely change how I thought about board games. Those two games specifically.
Yes, definitely.
Alex, you want to sign him off?
All right, that was Chaz's number 4 game, which was Dominion. Let's hear about his number 3.
Number 3.
Well, my number 3 is Camel Cup, which is number 2000.
No!
You're
going to get excommunicated from the duchy.
My well-reasoned argument.
I am taking away your dice-shaped slice of island if you continue with this.
No! It slipped right through my fingers.
Wait a second. I'm confused. So the island isn't shaped like dice? Only his portion of the island? Okay, I misunderstood completely.
No, that was the joke earlier.
Okay.
It was his piece of the island that is the duchy is the size of a pair of dice.
Okay, that makes more sense now.
All right. Well, it was an awesome joke. I'm glad you caught up to it.
I'll try to redeem myself and get it back as we continue through the episode. But Camel Up is my number 3 because this is a game, this has become my go-to gateway game. I've introduced this to a lot of different people, bring it to our game groups that I host, and it's nice because it plays fast, even with a full complement of 8 players, which is something that is not super common, and it's also relatively easy to explain. There's only several simple actions that you can do, and for brand new players, sometimes when you're explaining everything, their eyes do kind of glaze over with that, I'm in over my head feeling. But after about 2 rounds, they're like, oh, I get it. Okay. This is much easier than how you explained it. And so In fact, this is one of the first games that I introduced to my in-laws a couple years ago, introducing them to modern games, because they're like, you make these weird videos, bring one of your games sometimes. So I brought a few, and Camel Up was one of them. And the next time that we got together at my in-laws' house, one of the very first things they said to me is they pulled me aside and said, hey, did you bring that camel racing game? And right then and there, I knew they were hooked, and I knew I had converted some new gamers. So that's why Camel Up has an extra special spot on my list and why it comes in at number 3.
Very cool. Well, my number 3 is Rococo. This was designed by Matthias Kramer, Louis Malt, and Stefan Maltz. This was one of the 2014 nominees for the Kenner Spiel Des Jahres. And this is a game where you are a tailor making dresses and suits for high society in this Baroque era. And it's really an area control game. You have these different ballrooms of the king that you're basically making these dresses and sending them out. You get these bonuses. There's these decorations that you have to do. You have to get ready for a fireworks show. It sounds crazy, but this game is fantastic. It uses another kind of hand management mechanic where you have different actions on these cards, kind of like I was talking about in Concordia. And some of them are to go out and get the supplies to make the clothes. Some of them are the master tailors that you use to actually create the clothes. I just love this game. This is probably medium heavy to most people, and it just sings really nicely. I probably should have used a tailor or clothing metaphor instead of singing. Missed opportunity. Anyway, yeah, I love Rococo. And you like it too, right, Alex?
I like it quite a bit. It was on my short list for this very list. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
All right, well, that is...
Oh, are you expecting me to rap for you?
That's my number 3, Rococo. And it's even fun to say.
Rococo. Quite nice. My number 3 is a game that is one of the recipients of the Dukes of Dice Boxcars Award, when we both give a game a 6, the highest score we give a game. Although I rescinded that on Double Dig to a 5. In any case, it's still an amazing game, and this is Elysium. This is a 2015 Kenner Spiel nominee. This is a game where you are drafting cards into your, well, yeah, sort of drafting. It's drafting with a little twist on it.
It's a Rochester-style draft.
Yes. Drafting them into your tableau, taking actions on certain cards, and ultimately sending them to the underworld to collect points when they've, to make sets of points. It all hums together really well. The variability in this is off the charts in terms of the number of different sets you can mix and match. And I was so bummed out that the expansion for this is DOA.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. So
yeah, really sad.
But this is one that we broke out not too long ago, Sean, just to take another play of.
It was the last game that you and I played before you left for your trip.
That's right. And it still holds up and holds up really well. So I think it's worthy of a spot on this list in terms of my top 6 Spiel and Kenners. And it's sitting right there at number 3. So that's my number 3. It's Elysium.
Number 2.
My number 2 game is another Kenner Spiel winner, and it's also by Alexander Pfister and Andreas Pelikan.
Okay, there we go.
Don't want to forget the big Pelican, as he likes to be known.
That's what he told us to call him.
Yep, absolutely. So Broom Service is a reimplementation of some ways of Witch's Brew, correct?
Correct.
Yes. And I think Witch's Brew a nominee at some point in the past?
It was, and I think it was a winner too.
It might have even been a winner, yeah. This is a game that every time, so at Empire, you'll get into these moments during our game nights where you have a group of 3 or 4 or 5 or however many, and you wander over to the massive library in the wall, and you stare and you look, and you try and figure out what in the heck are we going to play next. And I've found the last, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, Sean, I have actively recommended breaking out Broom Service in a situation. It hasn't actually come to the table, but the sheer fact that out of that massive pile of games, that one keeps sticking out to me, has it in this spot on my list. It's one that I've enjoyed just about every play I've had of it, whether I've won or lost. It's one that the mechanics really sing, even though some of the core mechanic of that Cowardly Brave, I actually like how Glass Road does it just a little bit better. For me, the experience of this one is oftentimes just so much dang fun. I think that's the reason I keep trying to break it out, even though I haven't had a lot of other takers on that one. So that's my number 2, Broom Service, a game that has had some staying power, at least for me.
Have you played the card game version of Broom Service?
I have played the card game version of Broom Service.
How did it compare for you?
So I think we talked, did we review the card game? I don't think we
didn't do a featured review of it, but we've talked about it before on the podcast.
Yeah. And To me, it was all right, but it didn't stack up as well compared to the board game in my eyes. That was where I ended up falling on it. I saw some of the merits to it, but in terms of a card game implementation, I've seen better translations. I don't know. That's where I ultimately fell on the card game. Am I crazy, Chaz?
No, I don't think you're crazy at all.
Okay, good.
We played the card game version at BGG-Con last year, and it was like, oh, this is going to be like when you have a bowl of Lucky Charms and you pick out all the oat pieces and you're just left with a big bowl of the marshmallows. This is going to be like all marshmallow. But it didn't come across that way. It fell flatter than we were expecting, and it was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was expecting big things out of that because I've enjoyed some other card game implementations. For instance, Castles of Burgundy, that implementation I actually thought was really, really solid. And for whatever reason, this one just, it didn't cut it. And I don't know why. I don't know why that ended up.
Yeah. Exactly. That's been the same opinion everyone else that's played it that I know has had. Exactly. They don't know why either.
It's a mystery. Any case, that's my number 2, Broom Service.
So my number 2 is Orleans. This is, here in the US, it was published by Tasty Minstrel Games. And in Europe, I think it was DLP. This was a 2015 Kennerspiel nom. And I just love this game. I played this at Dice Tower Con 2 years ago for the first time, before Tasty Minstrel had brought it over, and actually played it with our buddy Berkey. And I sat down, I read through the rules. It was a pretty simple rule set, not really a whole lot to it. It is a fantastic bag building, kind of recipe building, because you have all these workers. You put them on these different action spots, and once they're all there, because you need a blue worker and a brown worker and a red worker. Once they're all there, you get that spot's activation. So it might give you new workers. It might give you some points by sending people to the town hall. It might let you move around on this map of France, going around collecting these goods. And it's really an easy teach. And it's a kind of a quick, snappy game too. I think that's one of the strengths of it as well. But there's a ton of depth there. And every time I play this, I just have so much fun. I just think this game's fantastic. I really do. And it needs to come out more. And I don't know why it doesn't come out as much as it does. But and you're a big fan, right, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think, Chaz?
Oh, yes. I've played it and I really enjoyed it. And isn't there an expansion that actually adds a whole new layer of like a cooperative mode to it? Yeah.
So I think it's Orleans Invasion. And it's a modular expansion. There is a cooperative mode. I think there's a solo mode and a couple other things that it does. I unfortunately have not played that yet, but definitely need to pick that up because I like the concept of trying this in a completely different mode. The cooperative mode just sounds really interesting. So
I've heard good things about that. Yeah.
So that's my number 2, Orleans.
Alrighty. Well, my number 2 is the Kennerspiel winner from 2013, Legends of Andor. I think I mentioned when I was talking about Near and Far that my wife and daughter and I have been playing Legends of Andor as a family. I think we're up to the 3rd or 4th scenario. We've had to restart a couple of them a couple of times. We weren't using any of the equipment at first. And then when we realized, hey, maybe this equipment will help us, we started doing a lot better. But Legends of Andor is a fantastic family weight storytelling RPG of adventure type game, where you are going through the land of Andor, and you have these different decks of cards that will be different adventures. And as you accomplish certain things, you'll trigger flipping over another card, which tells the next piece of the story. Maybe the game state will change a little bit or new objectives will come into play. But at the same time, for being, a twisty-turny storytelling RPG adventure type game, it keeps things as simple and streamlined as possible and as accessible as possible. And, like I said, it's been currently kind of the when we have a family game day on a weekend or something, it's the game of choice that's been hitting the table. So, it's been holding up after all these years and I am still enjoying it. That's Legends of Andor.
Number 1.
Which brings me to my number 1 pick. This is not only my number 1 actual favorite Spiel Des Jahres winner, this is also my personal pick for a game that I would love to see Restoration Games revise and reintroduce. And that's the 1994 winner, Manhattan. And this is a game where you have this grid of Manhattan laid out on the board, and you will play cards to actually build skyscrapers in your color and put them in little 3x3 grids, I think they are, throughout the board for different areas of the town, and stack your pieces up in a 3D kind of a skyscraper that you're building and stack them on top of other people's pieces and such, and actually build kind of this neat skyline. It's a game from 1994, but I think that most of the elements, the mechanisms in it still hold up. If, like I said, it's my pick for restoration games to go and revamp. And I think the thing in this game that needs the most revamping is kind of the card play system. I think in the last, 13 years or however, 23 years, actually, even more than that. I think that in the last 23 years since this game was developed, game theory has developed kind of new, better ways to manipulate the cards and manipulate placement of the different buildings. So I think that could be improved. But even still, I would still play Manhattan whenever it hits the table. And that's why it sits at number 1 on my list.
This has been on my board game bucket list. I've wanted to play this for a while now.
It's kind of hard to track down a copy of.
Yeah.
I have to give a shout out. I mentioned this in a video when I first got it. When I did my top 100 list for the Dice Tower, that was on there, the 10-part video series on the Dice Tower's YouTube channel of my top 100 games of all time, Manhattan was one of them on there. At that time, I'd only played it at my local game group. I didn't own a copy. Somebody in Europe watched that video. And when Tom Vassell went to the UK Gaming Expo last year, this guy tracked down Tom there, handed him a copy of Manhattan that had been gathering dust on his shelf, and asked Tom to ship it back to the US with him. And then Tom held on to it. And then at BGG Con last year, Tom brought it and gave it to me at BGG Con. So I am so stunned and grateful and just flattered and humbled by the amount of travel that this game took just to get to me. It really makes it extra special. The copy that I have has an extra special space on my shelf and is never going anywhere.
I find it especially funny that Tom had to be the mule for it.
Yeah, that's like an extra, that's like a little bowl of marshmallows in the story right there.
Yeah, totally. All right. So my number 1 is kind of a surprise to me. I don't know why.
It's going to be a surprise to us too.
Yeah, totally, because you guys can't see my list. Because it's top secret. It's code word clearance, and I don't. Well, I guess I'm going to declassify. Well, then
you share. Yeah, you've shared top secret information.
As a Duke, I am able to declassify something.
Oh, okay.
So it's fine.
Got it.
So it's Bruges from Stefan Feld. That was published in Europe by Hans im Gluck, and then over here by Z-Man. This was a nominee in 2013 for the Kenner, and it's a really thinky Feld game. Of course, it's a point salad, and it's also a multi-use card game. In fact, when Mike Fitzgerald was on a couple months ago and we did our top 6 multi-use card games, this was one of mine. And it is such a frustrating game to me because you're trying to draw a particular color of card at the end of the game, and I can never draw the right color at the end of the game, and it's really frustrating. However, that's fine because the rest of the game's good, except for the end. But that's just because I'm terrible at drawing cards. And what's cool, too, is it actually has 2 decks of cards, and you can see what color it is, and it's never... Anyway, I'm getting upset right now just thinking about it. But what you're basically trying to do here is you are trying to either build houses to house these certain personalities that give you game-breaking abilities or they give you bonus points. You're trying to build these canal sections of the city. Lots of different things here. You're trying to avoid these terrible things, these rats from attacking you or a fire from happening. It can be a little punishing, not as punishing as some other Feld games like saying the Year of the Dragon or whatever. But I just enjoy this so much. It is, everyone who listens knows that Raquel is a huge fan of Feld games. This is one that has hit the table. In the past, it's hit the table a lot. It hasn't hit as much recently, and I don't know why exactly. And maybe I was kind of surprised that this was number 1. But the more I thought about it, the more I've been jonesing to play this game. And it's just it has the familiarity of other Feld games, but it's also different enough from his others that it deserves to be brought out with some frequency. So that's my number 1, Bruges.
Very good. My number 1, I cheated because I tend to cheat on lists, and I combined 2 games into one. Pandemic Legacy, which was nominated last year for the Kenner, and Pandemic, which was nominated in 2009 for the Spiel. And for understandable reasons, maybe I combined both of these. In terms of the play experiences I've had with Pandemic and Pandemic Legacy, I think it's one of the games I most quickly bought after getting a first play in of it. And it was one of the games, I think it was the first video I ever saw on the Dice Tower Network. It was Tom's review of Pandemic that got me unbelievably hyped for this game, not just thematically, but it was also another one of those that, oh man, it's a cooperative game. You can play this together and you win or lose based on how you play against the game. That core mechanic has had, the rise of cooperative games has been interesting to see. You see games like The Grizzled that have emerged out of that. Games like The Game, for instance, which was another nominee at one point. Then you get Pandemic Legacy, which adds that little something special extra on top of it, that story mode, that ongoing campaign, which we still have yet to finish, Sean, much to my strong disappointment. I'm voicing my strong disappointment, sir.
I acknowledge your strong disappointment, and I've registered it in my book of complaints.
Excellent.
Which is quite big, but go on.
Yeah, well, we need to do something about that. We need to finish off this campaign, and I'm disappointed that we haven't. It has had, that campaign had a couple of the most memorable gaming moments of, oh my goodness, did that just happen?
You should share them with the audience.
I will not, because that would be spoiling the game. And you should play this if you're a listener of the show. If you need to find a group that will play the game to completion, not just most of the way through, Sean Ramirez, attorney at law. I used your full name.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. If you'll recall, I would prefer that you address me as Attorney Ramirez.
Attorney Ramirez.
From now on.
Yes.
Or
Esquire.
Quick aside, Chaz, we were just featured in a local article. Really, it was about Empire Board Game Library, but we were interviewed too. And the reporter, the writer of that article, kept referring to me as Attorney Ramirez.
Yeah. In any case, it's a game system that I've had a ton of fond memories with. I've even enjoyed some of the offshoots like Pandemic the Cure, the dice-based version of this. And it's a system that has had a huge impact, I think, on the hobby, and one that I personally have enjoyed a ton. So it is my number one game. A quick aside, additionally, separate from the list, Sean.
Oh.
I did search Board Game Geek for Camel Cup.
Okay.
With that search term, and it does come up as Camel Cup, a.k.a. Camel Up, but then you click on it, and it's a listing for Camel Up. So, way to not clear up anything, Board Game Geek. Very disappointed in you. Any case, that is our top 6 list. Of course, the Guild had quite a bit to say about this one. There were a number of games that were mentioned several times. Codenames got a ton of mentions, as you can imagine. A couple that we didn't mention on any of our lists that got a lot of discussion. Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. And Chaz, have you played that one?
I haven't.
It's really cool. I played one round of this one time with Jillian. I still own the copy somewhere and would like to play more of it. It's a really cool concept. You're working together to try and outwit Sherlock Holmes and solve the mystery before he does. And if you don't, he's a jerk about it. So anyway,
yeah, there were like 3 Sherlock Holmes games that seem to have all come out around the same time. Is this one Consulting Detective? Is it the one that's very story driven? You read a lot of excerpts about the. Okay.
Yep, exactly right. Yep. And you have some newspaper articles that you can use to help solve the case that are, in any case, it's really cool and awesome, and I can understand why it's on a bunch of lists. The other one that was on a bunch of lists was Liar's Dice. So, I don't know, was that a consideration for either of you guys?
Not really. I enjoy Liar's Dice, but I don't think it quite rises to the level of some of these other games. Although I will say that Spoils of War, coming out in June from Arcane Wonders, is a really good Liar's Dice Plus. Also, House of Borgia from Gamelin and Talon Strike Studios is also an excellent Liar's Dice kind of base game. So I think the underlying concept is really solid.
Very nice. So those were a couple of the ones that got mentioned. The Guild had a lot more to say about that, but we are going way too long on this episode, and Time Cop Duke Alex has to step in at some point. So that'll do it for our discussion, our top 6 lists of the Spiel and Kennerspiel winners and nominees of all time. Sorry, Chaz. Sorry about that.
You are listening to the Dukes of Dice, proud members of the Dice Tower Network. For other great shows in the network, check out dicetowernetwork.com. Back to Alex and Sean for this week's Dukes Double Take.
This week for our Dukes Double Take, we're looking back at episode 93, A Whole New World. And in that episode, Sean, we reviewed Above and Below from Red Raven Games and Ryan Lockett. At the time, you, sir, gave the game a 4. And listening back on the episode, a lot of it was driven off of you enjoyed the storytelling elements, but the underlying gameplay just wasn't quite where you needed it to be in terms of the mechanics of this.
That's correct. So a 4 is a good game, worth playing just not all the time, belongs in the duchy.
Indeed.
Yes.
I gave this one a 5 on the strength of the storytelling. I acknowledged that mechanically there were some pieces of it that could have been better, but the storytelling just sucked me in so much and I enjoyed it so much, and it played into more of my style of game. I ultimately gave this one a 5 out of 6 on the Ducal scale.
Which is a great game. Will rarely turn down a play of it.
Indeed, indeed. Chaz, what are your thoughts on Above and Below?
Well, that depends. How many decimal places can I go to? I would give Above and Below a good solid 4, I believe. I've played it. I enjoyed it. I don't see it hitting the table, barely at all anymore, my game groups and places I go. But I do know that people that have played it speak fondly of it. It just seems like it's not as omnipresent or at the tops of people's lists to get back to the table as often.
And I think that's been my experience too. I mean, I certainly enjoyed the plays I had of it, but I have not been eager to pull it back out. No one's really been suggesting it. Islebound came out not too long after, and I enjoyed the mechanics of Islebound much more, even though there was no storytelling element.
Which I knocked that game down for as a result.
Yes. Oh, yeah, we argued about that.
I listened back to that review, too, in preparation for
this. It doesn't need one. It doesn't just because the one before it had one.
But I wanted it to have one. Daddy.
Why doesn't this game have zombies? It should have zombies.
I want it now. Any case, yeah. So, and I agree with you, Sean. I haven't seen this one hit the table as much. And Chaz, I think you're dead right. It for whatever reason, hasn't been on the table as often. I did actually, oddly enough, see it, I think, a couple weeks ago at Empire. There was not a part of the Dukes of Dice game night. There was another group that had broken out and was playing it and seemed to be enjoying it. And I have absolutely fond memories of this one. I don't want to spoil the review too much here, Sean, because we haven't played enough of Near and Far yet to really dig into this.
Yeah.
I think Near and Far is an Above and Below killer.
I think so, too.
Yeah, Chaz.
And because of that, I'm going to drop my 4 to a 3. Game is okay, not exciting, we'll play in the right situation. And, wait a minute, will I? Ooh.
No, don't go. No, wait, come on.
Okay, here's the deal.
This is madness. This road you're going down.
So, here's the problem, because our buddy Jeremy, #Unleash the 2.
Oh, no.
I'm not going to give it a 2. I'm not going to give it a 2.
That was close.
So, I think there is still a lot of value in this game for a lot of people. I think that there's a lot more storytelling than there is in Near and Far. But for my money, I think that Near and Far has enough of that storytelling and has stronger mechanics. And we haven't even scratched the surface
of the campaign modes.
The campaign mode, the character development. At this point, I can't see ever pulling out Above and Below if I have Near and Far accessible. And keep in mind, that's off just the one play.
Yeah. I think what's interesting about Ryan Lockett games in general is we tend to compare them to each other, or at least I do. I tend to see them in this same world, this beautiful world that he's created. At least that kind of group of games, the Islebounds, the Above and Below, the Near and Far. And as a result, they get compared fairly or unfairly to each other, either mechanically or storytelling-wise or enjoyment-wise. And ultimately, I'm going to change my score. It'll go down from a 5 to a 4. I'd call it a good game, worth playing, just not all the time. Belongs in the duchy. That's where I sit with it. I will agree with you, though, that Near and Far, man, oh man, the game done changed.
So let me ask you, does it truly belong in the duchy, though?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think the storytelling piece of it is nice, and I think I'm curious to see in terms of Near and Far, because of the limitations of the story in just the one-offs, I think there's a situation where because of the significant size of that storybook that comes with Above and Below, I think if you're just playing a lot of one-offs, you're probably going to get more value getting Above and Below versus Near and Far. Even though I agree with you totally on the mechanics piece of it, and there's an element of Near and Far that they include that makes it so it has that additional replayability, that little extra deck of cards that you can use once the storybook's exhausted. That being said, I think there's a lot of room for Above and Below, and I think that story in there some of the stories in there are too beautiful not to experience and enjoy for yourself. Also, Near and Far doesn't have a breaking your guy's legs mechanic, which was my favorite thing about Above and Below, where you're not actually breaking people's legs. Chaz may be confused here, where you could exhaust them, but I would always call it breaking someone's legs to accomplish the task. In any case,
I will point out that I own every single Red Raven game,
Very nice.
except for Above and Below.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
Yeah.
In any case, yeah, no, I'm comfortable with a 4 here. A good game worth playing, just not all the time, belongs in the Duchy. Now, all that being said, Chaz, has that gotten you more excited for Near and Far?
It actually does, because exactly what I was hoping to get out of Near and Far, a little bit more, a little less of the storytelling aspect, but still having it be an integral part, but a little more focused on the adventure part of things and the exploration, adventure, and that type of thing. So it sounds like that's what Near and Far is designed to deliver, which sounds great.
Yeah, I think so.
Guild had plenty to say about this one as well. Start off with Ned Meyer. Oh, do we have time to read this one? I'm not so sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
We're good.
All right. Ned Meyer wrote up a whole Above and Below style story. The Glogos of Dice presents Above and Below the Duchy. As you venture further into the cave, you come across a shapeless congeries of protoplasmic bubbles, faintly self-luminous, and with myriads of temporary eyes forming and unforming as pustules of greenish light fill all over the tunnel. But it looks friendly. As you near the friendly creature, he asks you to join him on a lovely picnic near his home down a dark tunnel. Do you join the creature for some light refreshments, or do you head back to the surface to play King Domino, Magic Maze, and What Now Knock El Dorado? Options: picnic with the friendly Shoguth, explore 3, 2 mushrooms. Play Spiel Des Jahres nominees, explore 4, 3 coins. Well done. I appreciated that. The friendly Shoguth, by the way, remains in rehab at this time. Still stuck in Vietnam. He's had a hard time getting back into the country.
Oh, boy.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's tough.
What a tumultuous story for the friendly Shogun.
I know. It was that one incident on the podcast and just sent him into a downward spiral. So maybe he'll make a return at some point. But yeah, he's had a hard time. Luckily enough, though, his Panera is being run efficiently still, and oolong tea is still being served. So.
Wow, we have quite the elaborate backstory for this imaginary character.
No, he's totally real.
Yeah, no, excuse me.
Yeah.
How dare I?
In any case, Ned's actual thoughts on this game were, I agree with the charming part, referencing Above and Below. I like the game, but each time I play it, it feels like it's just missing something. I love the artwork, the storytelling's fun, and the Euro mechanics are solid. After playing Islebound, that has some similarities, and which I liked a lot more, A and B fell in my rankings. Yet another case where comparisons make a difference here. I'm also hoping that Near and Far adds enough, because I really do want to love this game. For me, I would rank it a low 4.
All right. So Scott Sexton said, my kids love Above and Below for obvious reasons. The storytelling is delightful, especially those parts written by Alf Siegert. Honestly, though, I have a very hard time taking this game off the shelf. The core game that frames the storytelling does not work for me. If you completely remove the storytelling parts of the game, is Above and Below any good as a game? I can think of several action selection or tableau builders that are far more robust and interesting. On the Dougal scale, Above and Below gets a 4, barely, for the art and story.
Yeah, and it's interesting that the art and story really does lift this game up for a lot of people.
BJ says, Above and Below is still played at our house, but we do not really treat it as a competitive game. As a competitive Euro, it has some interesting mechanics and beautiful artwork, but plenty of other games are better. It's the combination of the Euro mechanics and the storytelling that's still charming for us. The best part of the game is building up money to buy better characters to go adventuring, and winning becomes secondary. Lots of others will comment on the weakness of the storyline or the game, and admittedly, there are some weaknesses. But until Near and Far hits my doorstep, Above and Below scratches an itch that's not satisfied by any other game in my collection. I still rank it a 5 on the Dukes of Dice rating scale.
Very nice. So, yeah, that's our Duke's double take of Above and Below. It drops in both of our books, partially because of Near and Far. Sean drops it from a 4 to a 3. I drop it from a 5 to a 4. And Chaz, who didn't review it in the first place, has it at a 4. That's our Duke's double take, but before we wrap things up, we've got some runner-up titles to read off. Here's the best of the rest of the titles we didn't pick for this episode. First up, the Namefather Steve O'Rourke weighing in with Above and Beyond, referring to the quality of Spiel and Counterspiel games, and of course Above and Below.
Plus, it kind of ties in one of my old favorite shows, Space Above and Beyond.
Okay.
Not really.
What?
No, you're not familiar with that?
Nope.
Chaz, you know that show was like on Fox in the 90s? It was a sci-fi show.
My dad wrote that show.
Wait, what?
No, I remember it, but I never watched
okay.
it.
I was like, what? Really?
Nice.
Ben Ogden suggested curb a spiel instead of curb appeal, curb a spiel. Why are you looking at me funny?
No, I like. I'm not looking at you funny.
You're looking at me funny,
I'm looking
Alex.
at you longingly, Sean.
Well, that's probably true too.
Oh.
John Gidlin recommended Schmooze Your Own Adventure, which is kind of a play on the schmoozing aspect and the Choose Your Own Adventure books that were so awesome in 4th and 5th grade. I wish I still had them all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those were really cool.
I totally read a bunch of those like right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and sometimes I just I try and find all the endings is a lot of times what I do.
Did you ever map them out?
I did not map anything out.
I made a big chart. I'm like 9 years old, and I'm like making a chart. Yeah,
that sounds about right.
Because that's what I do.
No, I love those books, and there was a Goosebumps Choose Your Own Adventures too, which were really cool. That's more in my era, Sean. I don't know. I don't know if you're too old for that.
Yeah, I probably am.
Okay. Jimmy DM90 came in with Games Were Raven About. Raven spelled R-A-V-E-N, referencing Red Raven Games who put out Above and Below. Like that one? That was super clever. So good job, Jimmy.
And finally, our last one was courtesy Jonas Resteen Jepsen, who, you know, Alex, he hosted you on your whirlwind tour of the world.
Played games at the Bastard Cafe in Denmark, and if I do make it out to Essen, we'll be hanging out at Essen.
Okay. And
that's a big if, though, still.
Yeah, and so he suggested Above the Rest. Above the Rest. The cream of the crop, so to speak.
Indeed, indeed. And thank you to one of the board gaming media cream of the crop for joining us, Chaz Marler. Chaz, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you guys so much for having me. It's been a privilege to be able to sit down and record an episode with you guys. And before I go, I just want to say hi to Suzanne, who I'm sure is listening. So, woohoo, Easter egg there. Hey, Suzanne. It's always good to hear from you.
Now, I should say Duke Suzanne's slice of the island is significantly larger than your slice at this stage.
No, she doesn't have a slice of the island.
It's a slice of pie.
Yeah,
it's a slice of the island. It's shaped like a piece of pie. I did that not intentionally, but now I did it intentionally.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Yeah. Hi, Suzanne. Thanks for listening.
It's absolutely fantastic having you on here. I think I got, like a lot of people, got first exposure to you from Board Game Breakfast. And I'm like, this guy's pretty funny. All right, cool. Because a lot of board game humor can kind of fall flat sometimes. And,
well, sometimes you have to roll the dice with a joke, Sean. Hey! All right.
Yeah.
So right. I'm going home now.
Okay, good. But no, I think it's fantastic that we can have you on in a full hosting capacity. So thanks for taking the time to come on our little show.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
And Chaz, if folks want to reach out to you, interact with you, check out your contact, what's the best way for them to do so?
You can find me hovering around on Twitter at Dice Paradise, and also on Facebook at facebook.com/pairofdiceparadise, and on YouTube at youtube.com/pairofdiceparadise. I would love to hear from you, and I hope that you find something out there that you enjoy watching.
Indeed.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much again, Chaz. Really do appreciate it. All right, well, that's going to do it then for episode 145, titled Spielunking. Thanks again, Samish Harmon. Fantastic title. Just perfect. Until next time, this is Sean.
And Alex.
And Chaz.
I'm very confused why these ants keep getting longer and longer. It's part of some big plan.
I think it's because you've noticed it.
Anyway, Hail Hydra.
Thank you so much for listening to the Dukes of Dice. Today's episode was recorded in the Duchy and in the Ducal Embassy in Eugene, Oregon on May 25th, 2017. Our theme music is provided by Carbohydro M from his Prime Legacy album. The Dukes of Dice are a proud member of the Dice Tower Network. For other great board gaming podcasts, check out DicetowerNetwork.com, and for all the latest in the Duchy, go to DukesOfDice.com. Find us on Twitter at Dukes of Dice. Join in conversations on our Board Game Geek Guild. Find us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks to our sponsor, Tasty Minstrel Games. Check out all their awesome titles at PlayTMG.com. We'll see you back here in 1 week. Until then, game on!